don't know what that musical is based on. Shakespeare's play, Romeo and Juliet.
I want to see is the thing.
No, the Phantom is not based on Shakespeare. This song I played is based on. Yeah, it's based on Shakespeare. Romeo and Juliet. Romeo, Romeo, wherefore art thou Romeo? And you know what everyone thinks she's asking?
What?
She's standing on her balcony and saying, Romeo, Romeo, wherefore art thou Romeo? And they all think, it's like, where are you, Romeo? What does wherefore actually mean? It means why.
Oh.
Wherefore art thou Romeo? Why do you have to be Romeo? Why can't you be one of our people? Why do you have to be a Montague? Why can't you be one of our gang, the Capulets? So it's not where are you, it's why are you Romeo? And the famous line from that speech, a rose by any other name would smell as sweet. See, if you just weren't named Romeo, if you weren't part of that family, we could have a love affair. But because you belong to that clan, I'm not allowed to date you. That's the meaning of that speech. Why are you Romeo? Couldn't you have a different name? You'd have the same sweetness. But everybody hears, wherefore art thou Romeo? Say, Romeo, where are you? No, it's not that. All right, are you ready? I'll quit my chatter. I'll quit my chatter and let us begin.
Yeah. Professor David, can you please introduce yourself?
My name is David Wittenberg. I am a professor of entrepreneurial innovation here at Atlas University.
ये पॉडकास्ट हिंदी में कर सकते हैं?
क्या?
How good is your Hindi?
मेरी हिंदी ठीक है. मुझको पता 2000 शब्द. तो आसान हिंदी आती है, लेकिन पूरी हिंदी नहीं.
Everyone I know of my age, my friends in college, everywhere, everyone's hustling, grinding to get out of India, and I see you here. Why?
I love my India. I love this country. Let me tell you the story of how I got here. Excuse me. I've been internationally minded since I was a child. My father was an immigrant to the US. All of my grandparents were immigrants. They loved America, and I was raised to love America. But I was exposed to people from different backgrounds, different places in the world, eating different foods, speaking different languages, and so I was always interested in people who were other. In fact, I'm a member of a minority group in the US, so I always felt a little bit like the other. Nevertheless, I was interested in the world, but I hadn't seen very much of it. So I took every opportunity I could to travel. I even got an international master's degree, but I had never experienced living in a foreign country, and I said, I want to do that. So when I reached my 50s, I said, it's now or never. If I'm going to ever live in another country, I've got to make that happen now. So I offered my consulting and training services globally. In South America, they heard about me. They said, David, this is great stuff, but you're too expensive. We can't afford you. And then when I took myself to, somebody introduced me around at big corporations in Europe, they said, oh, you're an innovation consultant from America. I said, yes, I am. Well, they said, guess what? We're more advanced in innovation than you are, go away. So they didn't want what I had. So when I came to India, I got in touch with a guy who said, my business is bringing innovation consultants to India. I said, well, great. He said, I'll bring you over. Well, I said right from the beginning, I said, if you guys can find me clients in India and business in India, I will not only take business trips, I will shift. I will move and live in India because I wanted to experience living overseas. And sure enough, that's what happened. I started coming to do workshops in 2006, and then I got my big break. I got a year-long contract with Reliance Industries. And so I was able to shift full-time in 2008. So I love India. This is why I want to be here.
You've been here 17 years?
17 years.
How has life in India been? Like, is it what you expected?
Completely not. I'm a student of culture, And I had done both undergraduate and graduate level studies in intercultural communication. So I should have been more ready than most people. But all of my studies did not prevent me from making just about every cultural mistake that you can make. But for me, that was not a reason to fold my tent, tuck my tail between my legs and go away. For me, that was fun. Meeting the challenge of learning how to live in the culture of India, which is so polar opposite compared to the culture where I was raised in the US in several dimensions.
What did your company do?
I set up my consulting practice in Delhi. The name was the Innovation Work Group. And my job was to help companies like Reliance and other major corporations to do innovation better for better results.
In India, how many cities have you lived in?
Only two, Delhi and Mumbai, but I've visited probably about 20 in about 10 different states.
And how did you start this company back in the States?
Well, I love to teach my students about consulting. In fact, I've just started teaching a course for our MBAs in, I call it Your Career in Consulting. And that's exactly the question. How do you become a consultant? Because my business was a consultancy. So I said, look, becoming a consultant is not hard. In the US, it's the easiest of all. All you do is you make a signboard. And on the signboard, it says, expert. I is one. And if you is an expert, then you is a consultant. So becoming a consultant is really easy. That's not the hard part. The hard part is getting somebody to pay you for consulting. So I became a consultant when I was 23 years old, and I didn't even have a bachelor's degree. And my Indian students said, how can you do that? You need to have a credential. I said, no, you don't. You don't need to have a credential. If you want to be a consultant, all you have to have is some gyan, some knowledge that other people want, or some ability that other people want you to use. And what I knew was, I knew how big companies in America do innovation. And in India, they said, you know how the big guys do it? Come and teach us. And that's how I was able to start my consulting company in India.
What was your first job back in the States?
Well, this is another cultural difference. In India, my students have never held a job. Their parents consider it beneath them to actually work with their hands. No, Beta, your job is to study. So they come and they think that their job is to get marks. And then after they finish their studies, they go for a job. My first job was flipping burgers at McDonald's. See, because I was 15 years old. And in India, you go to your mom and dad and say, Papa, Mummy ji, I need money for whatever. Well, in America, I did the same thing. I said, Dad, I need money. He said, go get a job. We don't do that in India. So my first job was working at McDonald's in the kitchen.
How did you go from McDonald's to consultancy to teaching?
Yeah. So another thing that Americans do is they change jobs a lot. I've had 5 different careers.
Oh.
McDonald's was not a career. It was a teenage money-earning job. Although later on, one of my jobs was as restaurant manager. So how do you go? Again, if you want to think like me, you have to stop thinking that there are rules. You have to stop thinking that there's a fixed process. Innovation means you break the rules. Innovation means you do something new and different. So how did I get into all those different things? I just made it happen. At times, I set up my own company and was an entrepreneur. At other times, I took a job, and all I had to do was convince them to hire me, and then I was that. Then I could do that. So I have been a management consultant and trainer. I have been a restaurant manager. I have been marketing director of a software company. I have been a music talent manager and executive producer of albums, and I'm also a published songwriter. So in my opinion, you just make it happen. There is no rule that you have to follow a certain process to get there. You just do it.
For half a century you lived in the US. You must have like some story worth mentioning that people might find crazy.
Sure. How about this one? I, as you know, had a very non-traditional career path. I've done unusual and interesting things. And yet I woke up at age 29, almost broke. The business I'd been in, which was called numismatics, which was collector's coins, I'd been buying and selling, practically died because everybody who invested in them lost money when the price of gold and silver went down. So there I was, 29 years old. I had a wife and children, and I couldn't make a living. So I decided at that age, I should probably figure out what I want to do when I grow up. 29 years old, and I didn't know what I wanted to do when I grow up. Furthermore, I said, I'm 29 and I don't have any letters after my name, like BA, BS. I didn't have any of that. So I said, maybe I should get some letters after my name. So that's what I did. I found a college where you didn't have to go and live in a hostel. It was a special program for people who were settled in life, for adult learners, where you didn't have to shift and live on a campus. In fact, you want to hear what's interesting? I got my bachelor's degree without lectures, without exams, and without marks.
Damn.
Yes, that's the reaction. It's like, wait a minute, isn't college all about lectures and exams and marks? Well, if you take all of those away, Yash, what's left?
Knowledge?
Learning, exactly, learning. So I got my bachelor's through a non-traditional program where everything was independent study. And I don't mean listening to lectures online. I mean, I designed my own curriculum. Every semester, I designed a study plan. This is what I want to learn about this semester. And the job of my professor was not to teach me. Her role was to be quality assurance. Is David doing college level learning? And as long as I was doing college level learning and it had something to do with liberal arts, because it was only liberal arts, I could go learn anything I wanted. So I learned how to speak Spanish. I learned how to draw. I learned how people around the world made music. I learned of some of the science behind marketing and the human faculty of vision. I learned some about psychology and drama, acting. I learned what I felt like learning about as long as it was in the liberal arts fields. I even read a little bit of pre-calculus. I'd never studied calculus. I said, I don't need to do calculus. I just want to understand what it is. So I read a little bit. I said, oh, this is easy. I get it. Whereas a typical student says, I need to clear calculus exams. I've never done a calculus problem in my life. But I know more about calculus than all of them do because I understand what it is. They know how to do the sums. I know what it's used for. So my whole approach to learning was very different. I wasn't learning to be a quant. Okay, I could have. I'm smart enough. But that's so contrary to what you think education has to be. And yet I earned an accredited bachelor's degree doing that. And then the first thing I did when I got to this program was I attended a seminar in career and life planning. So I was 29 going on 30, and I said, I better figure out what I want to do when I grow up. And that's where I defined my dream job. I went through the exercises in this seminar of not looking at a list of jobs, not thinking about what pays well. I looked here, inside. And I said, what's the right job for me? This is how I advise young people. Stop looking at what you want to be. Start looking at who you are. Start thinking not about what you want to be or what field you want to be in. You're going to spend 1 lakh of hours in your life working. Don't you think it would make sense to do something you're good at and you like and you're going to be successful? So that's what I did. And I wrote an ideal job description for me, not for anybody else. Would you like to hear it, Yash?
Yes, sir.
My ideal job is traveling the world, dealing with people from different cultures in different languages and helping them to solve problems. That's who I am. I'm internationally minded. I love diversity. I love languages. I'm good at them. And I especially love solving problems. And so that's what a consultant does. It took me 20 years from the time I was 30 until the time I was in my 50s to actually make that happen. But here I am doing my dream job. In the month of January, I made 3 international trips to go spend time with people from other cultures, mostly in English, but some in French, and a word or two of Arabic, which I don't speak. But I've learned a couple of words, and helping them to develop as managers and leaders, helping them to solve problems.
Your bachelor's experience, has it in any way impacted the way you teach?
100%. Not in the sense that the method of teaching there is the method I used, because there was no method of teaching. Yes, we were able to attend a few seminars, but no lectures. So it's not that I learned so much about how to instruct. That's not what they taught me. Although there was one good lesson I learned from one of the professors in a seminar, and that was how you arrange the room. You set people up in an actual circle, and nobody is allowed to sit in the second row. You know why? Because second row people watch. They don't participate. So that was one tiny, tiny, tiny technique that I learned when I teach my students and when I teach my corporate trainees. When you do table work, everybody sits in the first row. But that's a tiny, tiny point. But what's interesting is, what I did learn, and this is not about how to teach, the material I studied about marketing in my bachelor's program, it was good enough so that I turned it into a professional seminar. And I started teaching it to other people and getting paid to do it. So isn't that nice? What you study in college, you actually earn money from it instead of putting it in one year and out the other and forgetting it, which is what most college students do.
Fair. The first lecture of your elective, okay? You said ki this elective is about you, and my first reaction to that was, this is bullshit. Like, how is this elective about me? But by the last exam, okay, this is about me and how I understood. And that was very different. Like 19 years of studying, and nowhere, no teacher has done that. Like, elective was about the knowledge that I have rather than by-hearting stuff and not understanding it. So thank you for that. How is your relationship with your family, your parents?
Wow, it's a difficult subject for me. As you know, I'm a very unusual person. I'm sure of all the people you've had this podcast with, I'm saying things that nobody else would have said. And I almost made a career out of being different for a lot of reasons. But what you're not seeing is that I actually suffered from 2 problems. One is actually a diagnosed mental illness called bipolar 2. And the other one, and I have to say it, you know, I'm going public with what could be a really, really serious secret, but I'm not going to make it a secret. I actually suffered from something called narcissistic personality disorder. Narcissists like me could be very charming, but we're ultimately self-centered. And that makes family life very hard. So I would not call my family life in any way, shape, or form a success. I had problems with my family of origin, with my parents, but remember, I'm so old, my parents have passed long back. I've had problems in my nuclear family with my wife, who is now my ex-wife, and my children. So I don't want to talk too much about that, but I will say this. If your narcissism is really serious and mental illnesses like bipolar need to be treated, and mine was untreated for a while, I'm happy to say 2 things. Number 1, my bipolar is completely under control, completely managed, has been for 25 or more years, more like 30-something years, managed, and I don't have those mood swings. And the other thing is, I'm happy and overjoyed that this serious, serious narcissistic personality disorder, which handicapped me in many ways and caused a lot of family and relationship grief. I was healed of it, cured, which doesn't happen. And it happened miraculously in a moment. And I just credit my God for having that supernatural power to remove it from my life. So the man you're seeing today isn't a narcissist anymore. I still maintain some of that charm, I hope. And I still maintain some of that comfort about being the center of attention. But I no longer only care about myself. I'm happy now to be much more concerned with just being patient and gentle and merciful with others and tolerant. So that's an interesting thing for your listeners, is that even though narcissism is really serious, there's hope. My God was able to instantaneously and miraculously heal me of it, and I'm so much more at peace now.
Did music in any way help you cope up with these issues?
I don't know. I don't know if music has helped me. I was raised, interestingly enough, listening to music because my mother was a concert pianist, trained at the best musical conservatory in America, the Juilliard School in New York. And she used to do concerts, and I used to lie in bed at night listening to her play Chopin or Prokofiev, and I treasure those memories. So I'm much more familiar with music as a result. The flip side of that was my mom was a tiger mom, just as her dad had been a tiger dad. He pushed her to sing on the radio when she was 5 years old. He pushed her, and my mom pushed me in music. So there was a part of me that fought back. An interesting story in my musical development. My mother sent me for my first piano lessons at age 5. Now, God gave me musical talent, okay? I can sing, I write songs, I'm a published songwriter, I can arrange, I hear things. And I can do things with my musical abilities, but she pushed me, and I didn't want to practice. So after about 3 or 4 years of piano lessons, I said, I don't want to do this anymore. She said, fine. You don't want to learn piano anymore? No issues. Pick another instrument. So I picked trumpet. And I had trumpet lessons for a year. And I said, I don't want to do this anymore. She said, okay, fine. Pick another instrument. So then she sent me for recorder lessons, which is like a kind of a flute. So I learned several instruments as a result of my mom pushing me and me resisting. And then I started to do that teen rebellion type of thing, and I went and learned to play rock and roll, first with the bass guitar and the drums. So I play rock and roll instruments as well. So music for me has not always been a calming factor. Sometimes it was a way of expressing anger. One of my beautiful breakthroughs after God healed me and after I went through a very painful divorce is after a pause of about 30 years, I started to write songs again. And I think my very best work in my life is a song called Nostalgia Lane. And I was able to write about my sadness and my regrets about my broken relationship. So music has been a lot of things in my life. It's been a cause of strain. It's been a joy of creativity. It's been a comfort. It's been... I love listening to old music now, and I get nostalgic. I remember the days of my youth, and I wish for happier times. And I have my regrets about the failures in my life. And yet, there's hope for the future. So music is multifaceted. It's a very powerful thing.
You've also written a book. I want to know, why did you write a book? How did you start? And what is it about?
Well, actually, Yash, I've written 6 books.
Oh.
And the one I think you're thinking about is my 6th. And it goes back to my story of finding my dream job. Now, as I told you, we have here in India, I think you'll be able to relate to this. We are very, very careful about career planning. But our system is very different from the American system. In America, basically it's like, kid, what do you want to study? I don't know. Okay, well, whatever you want, but you go pay for it. You can study anything you want, but you just do it, okay? That's the American. It's like, what do you want to do for work? I don't know. All right. We don't plan our careers that way. How do we plan them in America? Yash, you want me to tell you?
Yes, sir.
In India, how do we do it? Beta, you're going to be an engineer. That's career planning in India, right? Okay. Papaji and Mamiji tell you, Beta, you're going to study this, Beta, you're going to study that. All right, it works. We get a lot of Indian engineers and doctors and people who listen to Mummy and Papa and do what they're supposed to do. But I felt that we're missing something because we end up with people in their 20s who are unhappy in their careers. They've got the high pay, they've got the high status, but it's not their dream job. So what I did is I took what I learned as a college student, age 29, trying to figure out what he wanted to do when he grew up, and say, young people in India, why don't you do that process? Why don't you figure out what you actually want to do? And then negotiate with Papaji and Mummiji. Maybe you're still going to be an engineer, but maybe then you're going to figure out something else. I'm not trying to cause problems in your family, but start asking, who am I? So I wrote this book called 12 Secrets to Reach Your Goals in Work and Life, a success guide for young Indians. I'll repeat that. 12 secrets to reach your goals in work and life, a success guide for young Indians. And in the book, I share my understanding of what it really takes to succeed. Because too many teachers and parents say, oh, you want to be successful? Just score high marks. That's the key to success in India. Too many families agree with that. You can have very high marks and still be a failure. More importantly, you can have very high marks, be a great success, and be unhappy. What good is that? As my Indian friends would say, where's the fun? Where's the fun? So my point is, the book is written so you don't end up there. Find out what it really takes to be successful. And hint number one, it isn't high marks. Many people with less than high marks have been phenomenally successful and phenomenally happy. That's more important, success and happiness. So the book helps you to understand what you really need in order to be successful in life. And at the end of the book, I present to you some of the same exercises that I completed in my career and life planning seminar that I attended. So if I was able to define my dream job and then actually make it happen, that's my hope for my readers. Define your dream job and then make it happen. Now, it took me 20 years because I waited until I was 30. If you do it while you're a college student, it'll only take you 7 years and you'll be doing your dream job. So that's why I wrote the book, because Indians get a lot of support and encouragement from our parents and teachers. We are good students, but we miss this other important part of finding out what's the right job for us. That's my goal in writing the book.
When did you write your first book?
I wrote my first book in about the year, I want to say 2000. And I was actually hired as an author to write the book. It wasn't my own project. A publisher needed a book on a certain subject, and they hired me to write it. I wrote 4 books for them. And the subject matter, I'm sure everybody is interested, accounts payable.
Very interesting.
Can I tell you a joke?
Yes, sir.
All right. You asked about the difference between America and India. Mm-hmm. So I now am somewhat of an expert, or I was, in how to manage an accounts payable function in a corporation. Now, what's the job of accounts payable, Yash?
Account bookkeeping.
No, what's the job? The name is accounts payable. So what do?
Pay accounts.
Yeah, they pay the bills.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I was really surprised when I got to India and started working with large corporations. I said, so where's your accounts payable department? They said, well, we don't have one. I was shocked. I said, how can you have a company without an accounts payable department? And then I realized they actually did have it, but it had been renamed. In India, it's no longer called accounts payable. The name of that function is now called accounts delayable. Because you would send a net 30 days invoice, you might get paid in 60, 90, 150 days. And I came to understand that that's not because people are trying to be cruel or mean. It's not that they can't pay. It's that they understand that they shouldn't pay because the guy that owes them money isn't going to pay them. So the game is hang on to your money as long as you can because nobody takes invoice dates seriously. So there's no more accounts payable. It's all accounts delayable. How long can you delay payment?
You've expressed interest in exploring the world, traveling. How many countries have you visited?
I think it's only about 26 at this point. I'm hoping to visit more. I had a trip planned in 2023 that unfortunately I had to cancel. I was going to visit Turkey for the first time. I was going to visit the city of Madrid, although I'd already been to Spain, and I was going to visit Lisbon, Portugal. So those are 3 places on my list. But I have so many places I'd love to visit. In fact, I'm hoping to do more of my traveling around the world, helping people. I'm hoping to go to Africa in May, and I'm hoping to go to South America in June to do some of my training work through Atlas.
Any memorable travel stories?
Lovely. One of them is one of my very most recent. I made my second visit to the country of Lebanon in January 2025. I'd been there in March of 2024 to do some work for a client there. And I went back in January of this year. And I got to have one free day. Something happened. So I decided to make use of the time. And in the daytime, I booked a guided tour to the ancient city of Byblos, where they have ruins from thousands of years ago to the present. Fascinating. You know, have you seen the movie Raiders of the Lost Ark?
Yes, sir.
Well, it's set like at a Crusader temple. Well, I actually walked through a Crusader fort where people were 800 years ago. And I saw the windows that were shaped for ancient archery with a slit so you could sort of stand at an angle and nobody could shoot you. Fascinating experience. But what I want to relate to you is something I found out about Lebanon that is partly causing me to totally fall in love with the place. 3 times on that day, at my hotel, with my tour guide, and then in the evening I walked out, I wanted to get street food, I wanted to get some shawarma in Lebanon, and I got lost and I had to ask directions. 3 times in that one day, I said thank you to someone. Now Yash, here when somebody says thank you, we usually reply,
thank you, you're welcome.
You're welcome, it's the most natural thing. 3 times in one day, twice in English and once in French, when I said thank you, the person said, at your service. Isn't that sweet? You're like, who doesn't want to be in a country where people feel themselves to be at your service? So there's just a little fun travel story that I'm happy to share with you. So I highly recommend Lebanon. Go when it's safe. Go when nobody's blowing up anything. But I found the people to be absolutely amazing, and I've always loved the food. Can I share another travel story?
Yes, please.
Okay. I've seen some interesting things all around the world. Can you guess, Yash, what I would think is the most amazing man-made place on earth, man-made landmark that everyone should see?
Taj Mahal.
Absolutely. Absolutely. You nailed it. Okay. My experience of going to Taj was unbelievable. I ended up in Agra. I used to stay in Delhi, but I went before I shifted. And it was one of my early trips. You know, and you're waiting in the queue to enter, and the hawkers are just trying to sell you this junk and that junk for, you know, or begging from you, and it's dirty and it's dusty, okay? And then you clear the gate and you walk in. It's like you went into another world. It is surreal, the difference between outside the Taj complex and inside. And that's just everything about it. I don't want to give it away in case your viewers and listeners haven't been there. But it's night and day. Outside India, it's shocking. And there's just so much about the Taj Mahal that is interesting and beautiful and scientific and historical. There's just so much. I've just never been anywhere like that. And so I like to tease people. I'm helping a person who's going to be visiting India for the first time and helping her plan her itinerary. I said, you better go to the Taj or I'll kill you. Or not that I won't be your friend anymore. But yeah, you got to go to the Taj. So there's 2 travel stories for you. I hope those are okay.
Do you have any advice for someone who is in their 20s, lost, and trying to find what is right for them?
Yes. Buy my book. No, seriously, you don't have to buy my book. But yeah, don't look outside of yourself. Look inside of yourself. You'll never find the gold out there. The gold is inside of you. Every one of us is infinitely valuable. I believe with all my heart that God created each one of us as a special, much loved person. And He has a plan for every single one of our lives. And it's our job to find that and live it. So if you're having some doubt, if you're lost, if you're not sure, look inside. Look inside for who God made you to be. Discover your talents. Discover your gifts. Discover your passions. Discover your preferences. What is it you want out of life? That's important too. Mommy and Papa might want you to have a high status job. You might want to have a job where you have freedom to set your own agenda. Somebody else might want you to have a lot of money. You may be interested in making more of a creative contribution to the world. So look inside. Yes, respect your parents. Yes, respect your relatives. Understand that they care about you and they want good things for you. But ultimately, if there's a mismatch between what other people expect you to do and what's deep inside of you, you will always have that lost feeling. But find that purpose in life. For me, my purpose in life is serving God and serving others. That is when I'm most fulfilled. When I'm pleasing my God and when I'm adding value to the lives of other people. For you, it might be something different, but find that purpose. That purpose is what's going to help you find your direction in life and the satisfaction you're looking for.
Thank you for coming here, sir. This was a wonderful conversation and thank you.
Well, it's my great pleasure. Thank you for inviting me. And I hope, as I said, I hope I've been of some service to you and your viewers.
You sure have, sir.